Well, welcome to the Christy Jones Show, where it's all about living your life to the fullest. I'm a life coach, speaker, and business owner in multifamily real estate, and I've had wild success in multifamily housing for over 25 years now. I am so passionate about helping others merge their success and lead a fulfilling life, and I bring it all together right here on this podcast. So join me and let's get started to live your life to the fullest. Hey, my friend, welcome back to the Christy Jones Show. So glad you are here hanging out with me today. And I'm excited to talk to you about this topic today. So the life that you experience is really whatever you decide to focus on. You can't always choose what happens to you. I know that you could agree with me on that, but you can absolutely choose what you're going to focus on. And that choice determines everything. Does your life feel heavy or hopeful? Scarcity or abundance? Do you feel overwhelmed or are you flourishing? So in today's episode, I'm calling you out with the most love to stop giving negativity all the real estate in your brain and to start creating a life experience that feels good. As I get started with this episode today, I just want to say that I am so doing I'm practicing what I preach, because today I am coming to you with a full-on eye infection, styes on my eye. It's turned into an inner eye infection. There's all kinds of things going on right now that it just is not the perfect scenario. But as I always say, you have to show up anyways. You don't have to have perfection. I have a throbbing eye. I know you can't feel the discomfort, but I'm definitely feeling the discomfort today. And I've gone to the urgent care. I've done all the things. I'm on the getting ready to start the medicine. And you just can't wait. You can't put life on pause. I can't, put off doing this podcast that I do every single week. I can't put that off just because everything isn't perfect. I don't feel great. I definitely, without my glasses here, you can see it better, but I have to have these to see the screen in front of me and to see my notes. So I've got all the things going on in the background, but it's important that you show up anyways. And I hope that you take that and apply it to your own life and into your own business as you can. So a lot of times I talk about this a lot. I've even done episodes on this before where we wait around and we wait for everything to kind of, be perfect or to feel better, to, everything's got to be in place before I can do the thing. And absolutely not. You've got to just do it anyways. You do it messy. You do it when the problems are going on. You do it when, even when you're having like digital issues and electronic issues and whatever you got to do to make it happen, you make it happen. So you don't wait for everything to just be perfectly in place for you to show up and do the things that you are called to do, that you are committed to do. And so here I am doing this podcast today and excited to be here. So I hope that even in your own life that you don't always procrastinate, put things off because you're waiting for certain things to be a certain way. Show up anyways, show up every day, do the things that you've set out to do, and don't worry about all the things that you're generally worrying about. It doesn't matter. People don't care. The people that need whatever it is you're putting out in the world, they need it now. They don't care if there's some messiness involved. So a lot of times we get hung up in our own heads, and that's what delays our progress. So wanted to share that really quick before I get into the episode. So let's get going on this. So I am going to share with you, and I've been talking about it a lot on my social media, and that's the life you experience is what you focus on. And I had said on, I think it was on Instagram the other day, and I was talking about how we all have good and bad. We all have positive and negative. We all have neutral things going on in our world, in our life. And at the end of the day, the experience that you're having, what you're feeling, is a result of what you choose to focus on. Now, that's not to say that, we have hard things going on. We have things that are, pulling at our heart, that are stressing us out, or things that aren't, the way we wish they were, whatever that, and we all have that. But what you choose to give the most time and energy to, that's the life that you are experiencing for yourself. So the life that you experience isn't about what happens to you, but what you choose to focus on. You can have two people walking through the same situation. One chooses to focus on the struggle, and the other is choosing to focus on gratitude. Two very different lived experiences based on what it is they choose to focus on. So this isn't about ignoring the hard things in your life. This isn't about acting like those don't exist, but it's about reclaiming control of the lens through which you look through, regaining control of the lens you live through. So that's what this episode is about today. The power of focus is so powerful. The power of focus, the power of focusing our mind, the power of focusing our attention. The human brain naturally, it scans for problems. It's survival wiring. And we are just primal in that way, that we are not always looking for, whether we realize it or not, our brain is scanning for problems, safety, security. Are we going to be okay? Go back to the caveman days. Think about that, right? So the brain is wired for survival. But consciously, we can choose how we focus. Consciously choosing focus is how you shift from survival mentality to thriving in your own life. So it's almost like, how could I say this in a different way? Like a spotlight effect. Whatever you shine a spotlight on, whatever you shine your mental spotlight on, that's what grows larger in your experience. Think about like walking through the dark, and you've got a flashlight, and whatever you're shining, like maybe let's say it's not completely dark. It's like, just the sun has set. It's just starting to you can still see in the perimeter, but it's not just pitch dark yet. But you have a spotlight with you, and you're walking with this spotlight or flashlight, and you see the other stuff on the sides, but what you really see is wherever you're pointing that flashlight. Wherever you have that flashlight, that's clearly illuminated, and that's like what you're experiencing is exactly what that light is shined on. But you kind of see the other stuff because it's dusk and it's not totally dark. And you see the trees over to the side, and maybe you see, somebody walking a dog over on the left-hand side of your, peripheral vision. But what you really see is whatever you've got the flashlight on. So that's a spotlight effect. Whatever the spotlight is shined on, that grows larger. That's what you experience the most of. So a negative focus is really going to feel like a heavy life. It's just going to feel heavier. So you have the ability, just think, life can feel heavy or it can feel a lot lighter. Which would you choose? Which would you choose? A negative focus is going to feel much heavier. When you're constantly focusing on what's wrong in the situation, what's wrong in the relationship, what's wrong at your job, what's wrong with, the house, what's wrong with your car, whatever your focus, what's wrong with yourself. Many of us look in the mirror and we automatically see what's wrong with us, whether it's externally or internally. Right now, I look in the mirror and my left eye, it's puffy, it's sore, it's red. It does not look like what I would hope my eye would look like on any given day. It looks like I've been punched. It's like I have a ring around my eye. It literally looks like I have almost a black eye. And if I focus on that and I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh my gosh, it feels uncomfortable. It looks horrible. And if I'm constantly focusing on that, that is not going to make me feel good. My experience is not going to be good. Yes, it is what it is. That is how my eye looks right now. It hurts. It's dark. It kind of looks like a black eye. It's painful. It has made my side of my face sore. I mean, and it doesn't look good. It looks really different than my other eye. And if I want to focus on that, I can. I mean, I clearly can, but I'm not going to focus on that. And because I haven't been focusing on that, I have moved through my day. I've done all the things that I've set out to do. I'm doing this podcast with you right now, and it's not the focus of my experience today. It's a part of it. You know, I went to the doctor, I had to get some medicine. Can't wait to start the medicine. But it's not where I'm directing my focus. It just is what it is. When you constantly focus on what's wrong, whatever part of your life that is, I don't like this about myself. I wish I was different in this way. It's going to feel heavy. Life's going to feel, exhausting. Sometimes I hear people explain it like it feels so unfair. Life is unfair. Life can be unfair. And if that's what we're going to focus on, that's what we're going to experience. So we have to move out of that. I want to talk about how energy follows our attention. Our energy follows our attention. And guess what? We get to decide where we put our attention. Are we going to put our attention on the problems and what's wrong and all the things that frustrate us and with things that we wish were different? I mean, we can wish things till the cows come home, but that isn't going to change anything. Action is what's going to change something. But just sitting in a negative focus spiral or cycle is absolutely going to make you feel heavier. It's going to make you feel exhausted and depleted. And the life that you are going to experience because you choose to focus and give so much of your attention and so much of your energy to whatever is not working or is, quote, wrong, or the thing that is frustrating the crap out of you, you're only putting the spotlight on that more. I think about several things in my life and in my past where I was kind of stuck focusing on the challenge and how that kind of trickled over into other aspects of my life. And until I decided to stop focusing on that challenge, it was hard to really, shift out of that. One thing that comes to mind from a long time ago, but it was a real pivotal moment for me in how I decided to shift what I focused on. And that was when I was newly separated in the process of going through the divorce process. And it had to do with child support. And I think I've got one $200 money order in the mail 1 month. And I'll just be gracious and say I got 2 months. I don't recall the second month, but I'm going to be gracious and say I got $200 and then $200. And yes, that doesn't sound like a lot now, and it wasn't a lot then, honestly. For if you have children, you know how expensive it is and cost of living and all the things. So I was frustrated and I focused for a short while. And when I say short while, probably 2 months, where the child support didn't come. And I was working and I was doing 3 jobs. So I was doing all the things, right? And so any little extra was helpful. And so I just decided I was just really angry about that. I was focused on the fact that, how could you not want to do that? How could you not, anything, like any contribution. And so I started, and it didn't last long. And when that first month went by and it got nothing, and then the second month, nothing, I quickly snapped myself out of it and went, am I going to focus on that? Like, why would I focus on that? I mean, I can't change that. It's just, it's just something that's happening. I mean, my focus needs to be continuing to work the three jobs, continuing to find solutions to make ends meet because I knew, I believed in myself, but I almost took the bait and went to where I would focus on the negative because there were so many other positives, so many other positives. My life felt lighter. It didn't have the chaos anymore. I was in the driver's seat and I was able to, I knew I'm in the driver's seat. I get to make these choices. I knew I had God on my side. I knew that he was directing my steps and making the crooked places straight ahead of me, even when I didn't even know that the crooked places were, coming up the road. So I had so many good things. And then why am I going to choose to focus on this negative, this one negative that, at the time didn't seem fair and I just didn't understand it. And so I quickly decided that I'm not going to focus on that one bit of a negative fact. And because I did not like the way it made me feel. It was such a heavy feeling. It was just, where putting my attention there did not feel good. It was not the type of life that I wanted to experience. And so I made the decision right then and there that I no longer was going to think about it, worry about it, discuss it, care about it. And there were many other solutions, many other things that I could do. And sitting and worrying and stewing and getting irritated over that was absolutely pointless. And so I quickly shifted from that. And when I did shift away from that, and I didn't put any more thought into it, like I literally did not care. It was just, I just released it. And when I did, my life began to feel so much lighter. That bit of energy that I was putting towards thinking about that and being ticked off about it, that energy got directed in a much different way towards something that was going to make me so much more, stir up so much more positive energy and positive focus and give me energy to do things that were actually going to move my life into the direction that I had hoped it would. So when you can make that shift, if you have something big or small that's kind of keeping you stuck, a challenge, it does affect, if you can shift out of that, it's going to affect how you see everything else. So I encourage you to identify if there is something that's kind of got you stuck there and make that shift. Step out of it, quit focusing on it. A negative focus equals a heavy life. And we want to be able to move through this life feeling lighter, feeling more like just more what I say flexible. Like we don't need heavy stuff to hold us down. So when we have a positive focus, our life flourishes. I'm not saying we don't acknowledge challenges. We do acknowledge challenges. We don't bypass them, but we don't let them dominate our attention. A way to reframe it is whatever it is that you're looking at as your like thorn in your side, right? What's one thing I can be grateful for right now? Even in the midst of the problem, even in the midst of the frustration, whatever that is that's your brain wants to go to the negative, whatever that is for you. I want you just to like stop and ask yourself, what's one thing I can be grateful for right now? I have practiced that throughout my life. When the brain wants to be monkey brain and think about and take too much time and attention on a challenge, a problem, something that just frustrates the crap out of me, and it's dominating my attention, what's one thing I can be grateful for right now? Instant shift. instant shift in how you feel right then and there. It's like a ripple effect. The positivity, when you focus on what's positive in your life, in yourself, in your day, you can take that as macro as or micro as you want. But when you do that, it creates a ripple effect of positive focus, and it fuels better energy. You make better actions, you make better decisions, you get better results in your life, period. When I coach inside the Flourishing Edge, flourishing doesn't mean a problem-free life. None of us have a problem-free life. We're human. Life is a mixed bag, most times a 50-50. It means flourishing in your life means choosing what lights you up anyways, in midst of the challenge, even when the problem is present. So flourishing does not mean a problem-free life. Flourishing Edge, when I coach inside the Flourishing Edge, that is a mindset shift. That is a perspective shift. That is redirecting your focus and deciding, am I going to focus on what's negative or am I going to focus on what's positive? And whatever you choose to focus on is exactly the life that you're going to experience. So I made some notes here. I was thinking earlier, and I want to give you, before I close out this episode, some really practical ways that you can shift your focus. So take note of these, jot them down if you want to, put them, type some notes in your phone, whatever works for you. But gratitude, I mentioned it earlier. Daily gratitude check-ins. Do it in the morning, do it in the evening. You can do it throughout the day, but at some point in your day, do a daily gratitude check-in. Ask yourself a really good question. The second thing a tip I would give you is ask yourself, what's good here? Even in the tough day, even in the crappiest day, pause and ask yourself, what is good here? What good took place today? Maybe if you're closing out your day, you just had a really tough day. Work just kicked your butt. You had a couple tough conversations that day with people that are close to you, maybe a colleague, and then your kid comes home from school and they had some stories of some tough things that they went through, and man, you're closing out the day and you are just spent and you are like, this was just a tough day. Before you close out that day, ask yourself, what's good here? What was good? Challenge yourself to find something good from that day. Third thing is, and I mentioned this earlier too, but limit the mental real estate. Y'all know I'm in the real estate business. Like, I'm in multifamily housing, so I think of things in this term a lot. Limit the mental real estate that you give negativity. Do not give your brain is not just, a free-for-all. I mean, it can be, but that's where your conscious effort comes into play. You can't just give your whole mental capacity like open rein to whatever. Limit what you give, what's mental space, the mental energy that you give negativity. Don't let one bad 5 minutes of your day end up just becoming like a whole bad day. There's really no reason for that. We can have bad moments. A lot of times when I have something and, maybe like a series of things have happened like quickly throughout the day, like back to back to back to back, I just pause. I take a minute. I take a breath and I gather myself. And because to make sure, like, I need to close the chapter right here and to make sure I don't carry this into the rest of my day. So I pause, I take a breath, I put it in perspective. I do a gratitude check-in. I definitely don't want to make it the focal point of my day. If there's something I need to take away from whatever just happened, I do. If I need to jot a note, whatever, get back to it, circle back to it later in the day, but whatever that is. But I'm going to close out that moment and see it for what it is. So don't let like a tough 5 minutes or your morning gets off to a bumpy start. That doesn't have to result in a whole entire day. I mean, I can shift quickly, like quickly. My husband calls it my reset button. I have an amazing reset button. And I have a great reset button because I have worked on it for years. I can quickly reset. So the quicker you can reset, then you've got a clean slate and it doesn't turn into an entire crappy day. So don't let 5 minutes become a whole bad day. And then the last thing I will give you, another practical way to shift your focus, I call them joy anchors. And these are small, repeatable habits that remind you to shift your focus. For example, take a walk outside. Anything you can do outside, honestly, is going to really be a joy anchor. It's going to shift your focus instantaneously. So get outside, take a quick walk, have a playlist, have music or a playlist, have a song that gives you that immediate feel-good factor. It gives you that immediate shift. So that is a great joy anchor. Things like stopping, praying, saying a prayer. If you have a certain mantra, a certain prayer that really brings you a lot of peace, a lot of calm, go into that. Let that be your joy anchor. And another thing would be to journal. If you need to make that shift, you need to really shift your focus. And maybe this one might take a little more time, but sit down and journal. Get it out. Do that brain dump. It's going to shift your focus. So the joy anchors, know what joy anchors work for you and put that in your toolkit for sure. So I want to emphasize before I close that it is not about circumstances. It never is. We think it is. And oftentimes people want to blame circumstances, but it's a choice. It's a choice on what we choose to focus on. It's a choice on the thoughts that we decide to put for the circumstance. I've talked before, and this has been another podcast episode, and I coach on this often inside my Flourishing Edge Inner Circle, which there will be a link below on how to join. That is my monthly group coaching. And inside the Flourishing Edge, so it's called the Flourishing Edge Inner Circle. But circumstances are neutral, and they are neutral until want to know what charges the circumstance of being good or bad or positive or negative? And it's the thought that you put with the circumstance. Same circumstance can happen to two different people, and they are going to each put a different thought associated with the circumstance. So anyways, we choose our thoughts. We decide what we're going to think about a circumstance. That determines how we feel, which determines how we act, which determines our results. So you can't always choose what happens to you. You can't always choose what happens in life, but you can choose what you magnify. We don't choose all the things that go on in the course of a day, the course of a week, a month, a year. Life happens. You and I both have things happening right now in our life that you're like, I'm perplexed. I did not choose this. I don't know, right? I mean, the rug can get ripped out from under you in different aspects of your life. I know you've probably been there. I've definitely been there. But it's what you choose to magnify. That is going to determine the experience that you have. So choosing your focus is choosing your life experience. So I want to just challenge you guys that this week, when you catch yourself like drifting off into negativity, focusing on a problem, magnifying a challenge that's going on in your world. Catch yourself when your focus drifts to the negative. I want you to pause and redirect. Go back to one of the joy anchors that I shared, one of the other practical tips, and put that to place in your life. I would love for you to drop me a DM or share it on your social media. One thing that you are shifting your focus on. I would love to know what that is. If you are not on my email list, you can go down in the show notes and definitely get on my email list so you stay up to date on all the things. And I send emails out all the time. And there's things that just in that community, if you're on my email list, that you'll stay in the know about. And I would love, if you're on my email list, just go to my email and just hit reply. Tell me what is one thing that you're choosing to focus on today. What's going to be your focus this week? So again, if you want to connect and go further, you want to join me inside the inner circle, that is where you get every week. There's new material in there, and it's where I do my small group coaching. And it's a great place for us to connect and for you to intentionally build the life that you desire. I think last thing I'm going to say on this, as far as what we focus on in the life that we experience, is give you the example of a camera. So think of a camera lens. And if you zoom in, let's just take the camera on our phone. Okay, so you've got your phone, and let's say you're pointing it in at your yard, and it's at the flower bed, and you're zoomed in, and you see the weeds, and those you're like, oh my, and the weeds are irritating you because now you're like, look, the flowers looked great, but now that I zoom in, the weeds, and then all you see are the weeds. You zoom over here and you see more weeds and more weeds and more weeds. But if you take your camera on your phone and you zoom out to see the entire flower bed, you're seeing the flowers, you're seeing all the color contrast, you're seeing the tree in the back, you're seeing any building that's behind it. Maybe you see, your house or the office or whatever it is that you're looking at. You're seeing the whole big picture, and you're like, wow, that's so pretty. That looks so nice. There might even be, let's just imagine there's a little waterfall. There's a little water feature that's in that flower bed. You're not even noticing the weeds because you're zoomed out. Because your focus is on the big picture. You're zoomed out. You're seeing all the amazing things. You're seeing the whole entire picture. But when you zoom in, all you're seeing are the stinking weeds. And you're like, how did those grow back so fast? I pulled those 2 weeks ago. They grow so fast, by the way. So decide what you're going to focus on. You do choose that. Whether you realize it or not, you're choosing your focus each and every day. Are you zooming out, or are you zooming in on the problems and only seeing that? All right, my friend, thank you so much for being here. I would love, love, love to hear from you. Like this episode, share this episode, tag me if you share it on social at Flourishing with Christy on Instagram. And I would love that. I would love that so much. So thanks for being here. I cannot wait to be back next week. And in the meantime, have a fabulous week. I'll see you soon. I want to thank you for tuning in today to the podcast. And I hope you've enjoyed the conversation and all the info that's been shared today. And I hope you've come away with a few ideas on how to make the most out of it for your life. If you loved this episode, be sure to share it with your friends and family. And also make sure you subscribe to the podcast and tap that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Also, it would mean the absolute world to me if you would leave a podcast review. So until next time, my friend, keep flourishing and thriving and live your life to the